For the better part of a decade, a story has been unfolding. It's been happening right in front of us, but almost entirely in the shadows. Now, this isn't a story about a new phone or a faster chip. No, it's a story of a silent, methodical campaign to enter and ultimately redefine one of the world's largest industries, healthcare. So today, we're going to conduct a fundamental analysis of that campaign.
We tend to see Apple as a hardware company that sells these beautiful devices, or maybe a services company building out a digital empire. But if you do a forensic analysis, if you really dig into a decade's worth of financial filings, a very different question starts to emerge. What if Apple is quietly becoming something else entirely? Something far more fundamental to our lives than we ever really imagined.
Every great construction, every skyscraper, begins with a foundation that's very deep beneath the ground, completely out of sight. Well, between 2016 and 2019, while the entire world was fixated on iPhone sales cycles, Apple was digging its own foundation. This was the very first, and you could argue the most critical, phase of its siege on healthcare, a period of absolutely immense investment that went almost completely unnoticed.
So let's just set the stage here. 2016 through 2019, the market was obsessed with cloud services, advertising models, and the whole narrative around Apple was deceptively simple. It was all about iPhone sales. But just beneath that surface-level analysis, a river of capital was being quietly rerouted to a much longer and, frankly, much more ambitious project.
Okay, here's the first piece of forensic evidence. In 2016, Apple's R&D spending was $10 billion. Pretty big number. By 2019, it had swelled to $16 billion. That's a 60% increase, an extra $6 billion a year. Now, for an investor, the real question isn't just how much was spent, but where it was spent. And this capital wasn't going into thinner laptops. It was being buried deep inside a new foundation. The best analogy I can think of is London's great 19th century sewer system. It was revolutionary, absolutely essential for the city, but to all the citizens walking around above, it was utterly invisible. Apple was building a new kind of infrastructure, not with brick and mortar, but with silicon and sensors. We're talking advanced biometrics, custom processors, and deep software integration, all hidden away inside the very devices people were already buying. So, with that invisible foundation firmly in place, the strategy moves into its second phase. And this is where that quiet investment really starts to surface, but not as a flashy new product. It surfaces as a platform. The goal here was to transform a consumer gadget, the Apple Watch, into a trusted, medically validated instrument. And that required more than just good technology. It required building an entire infrastructure of trust, both with you, the user, and crucially with regulators. The economic engine that funded this whole transformation, well, that was a services division, which was becoming a financial fortress. You can see it right in the 10K filings. The gross margin on services climbed from an already incredible 69.7% in 2021 to 71.7% in 2022. Now, this isn't just profit. This is high-margin, recurring revenue. It's the kind of money that buys you the strategic patience you need for a decade-long siege. And the resilience of this engine, it's just staggering. Even with all the global economic headwinds, the 2023 10K shows that the services gross margin held steady at 70.8%. This kind of financial power lets Apple play a completely different game than its competitors. It can afford to make these huge, long-term bets, navigate incredibly complex regulations, and build its most important asset of all, trust. So what Apple was really building was a powerful economic moat with three really distinct layers. First, you have data continuity. Once your health data starts accumulating on your wrist for years, the cost of switching becomes immense. Second, deferred revenue from that massive services business we just talked about. And then there's the final and maybe the deepest layer, privacy. By processing sensitive data on device, Apple built a direct counterpoint to the data-hungry models of its rivals. Now we enter the third phase, and this is the most disruptive part of the entire strategy. It's called dimensional reduction. It's an engineering concept that's being applied as a business strategy. The idea is to use software to collapse an entire, expensive hardware category into a single feature on a device that already exists. That invisible infrastructure is now being weaponized. Let's just consider the hearing aid industry for a moment. It's a market known for sky-high costs, specialist appointments, and a lot of social stigma. The average cost for a pair of traditional hearing aids, it can be $5,000. So what did Apple do? With features like Conversation Boost and Live Listen, it didn't release a new hearing aid. No, it used software to turn its existing AirPods Pro, a $249 device, into a powerful hearing assistance tool for millions of people. The hardware was already out there. The software update had a marginal cost of pretty much zero. That right there is dimensional reduction in action.
But of course, this kind of power invites conflict. As Apple moves deeper into heavily regulated territory like glucose monitoring, it's going to run into incumbents. This quote from Apple's own 2023 10K about the Massimo patent dispute is so illuminating. It shows you where the real battleground is. It's not in the tech press, it's in the courtrooms of the ITC and the halls of the FDA. But here's the key. For Apple, these regulatory hurdles aren't a barrier. They are the ultimate moat. They turn the system itself into a competitive advantage. This entire strategy, as you can imagine, inevitably leads to a conflict of titans. But the competition between Apple and a company like Google in the healthcare space, it's not a simple feature-for-feature race. It is a fundamental war between two opposing paradigms, two totally different philosophies for control of the most valuable real estate in healthcare, you, the user. Apple's model is what you might call the personal GP on the wrist. It's decentralized, it's user-centric, it's hardware first, and it generates this continuous stream of biometric data behind a formidable wall of privacy. Google's model, on the other hand, is the cloud hospital. It's centralized, it's data-centric, and it uses these vast cloud data sets to try and find population-level solutions. It's really a battle of individual longitudinal data versus massive cross-sectional data. And in this paradigm war, our analysis suggests Apple holds three decisive advantages. First, there's distribution logic. Apple controls its hardware, its software, and its retail stores, giving it a direct, trusted relationship with hundreds of millions of users. Second, control of the last 3 feet. That's a term for the intimate space right around a user. And the wrist, well, that's the ultimate perch for continuous health monitoring. And third, irreversible switching costs. Once a user has years of their personal ECG, their heart rate, their sleep data, all in one ecosystem, the incentive to leave becomes vanishingly small. That data becomes a part of their life story.
So this brings us to the final synthesis. For a long-term owner of the business, the story isn't about a single product launch. It's about the durability and the quality of the business model. And what Apple has built here isn't just a new health business, it's an entirely new and, I would argue, far more essential relationship with its customers. The financial culmination of this whole strategy is, well, it's breathtaking. Projections that are based on this trajectory point toward a potential service margin of 74.3% by 2025. This isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It represents a business engine of almost unparalleled profitability and resilience. It's an engine that can fund the next decade of silent foundational investment. And the sheer scale of the cash flow this model generates is just difficult to comprehend. A projected $95 billion in annual share buybacks. That represents an immense return of capital to the owners of the business. It is the direct financial result of successfully building that moat, layer by layer, over 10 long years, transforming the company into something far more durable than just a seller of cyclical electronics. And so we end with a final, provocative thought. A physician might see a patient for 15 minutes, a few times a year. The device on the wrist sees them 24 hours a day, every single day. As this platform becomes the keeper of our very biology, we have to ask, has this silent hunter forged a relationship that is now more continuous, more intimate, and ultimately more essential than that of our own doctor? That is the question that will likely define the next decade.